What if I told you that the place that you choose to call home has the power to shape not just the way that you live, but the course of your entire life? I'm an architect, and today I want to share with you 3 stories that illustrate this power that our homes have to subtly shape who and even what we become. My first story is about the power of opportunity. Now, my mum is from Malaysia, and for most of her childhood, she spent her nights on top of a thin straw mat in the middle of a dirt-floored room, which she shared with 10 siblings and parents. And every morning, she would leave the house to go and tap rubber at a local rubber tree plantation before returning home to get herself and her 6 younger siblings ready for school. A morning routine that she had to do because her family were constantly in debt and struggling to get by, in conditions that we would now consider to be extreme poverty. But one day she learned that Malaysia, as a former British colony, was being targeted to recruit foreign labor for a British post-war nursing shortage. And slowly but surely, more and more of the girls from her village were applying. And so she found herself at a crossroad. She could either stay and settle with this life and routine that she faced here together with her family, or she could go and face the uncertainty and isolation that would most certainly accompany this search for a better future. Now, this scared her because she knew that this was a decision that her mother had also made as a young girl when immigrating from China to Malaysia. And as her mother still clung to this glimmer of hope, my mum realized that perhaps this was the opportunity that her family had been waiting for all this time. And so, regardless of how painful a move like this might be, there was no way that she could bring herself to stay. And so many months later, she would find herself halfway across the world, thousands of miles away from her family, in a time long before smartphones and the internet, living in a country whose language she could barely speak, completely isolated, having sacrificed the familiarity and relative comfort of her family back in Malaysia for a new home in England. But by having the courage to sacrifice the familiar for the unknown, she seized an opportunity not only to change her life, but the lives of multiple generations. Because as she sent back every available penny that she earned, she gave her younger siblings the opportunity to attend college. And together, they would lift this entire family out of poverty. This is the power of opportunity in relation to the place that we choose to call home. And this opportunity is the foundation of everything that I now know today. My second story is about the power of time. Whilst living in England, my mum ended up meeting my dad, falling in love and starting a family of her own. And after years of patience, hard work, and sacrifice, my parents achieved something that they had been dreaming of for years: purchasing their very first home. Now, my younger brother and I were just 4 and 6 at the time, and we were getting settled into our new schools, and this marked the beginning of a new, impeccably timed chapter filled with hope, purpose, and opportunity. But life has a way of disrupting even the most perfectly laid out plans. Because one day, in the middle of the night, my dad's heart stopped beating. That morning, I woke up to all of the stability that my parents had worked so hard to create, being suddenly ripped away from beneath me. I had never seen my mum cry like that, as I witnessed her uncontrollably weep, collapsed on our living room floor, with her head buried in soaked and trembling hands, while my brother and I just stood there, confused, scared, completely unaware as to just how much this would impact our futures. Futures that were now without the love and guidance of our father, and futures without the example of what it means to be a man. But it wasn't just us who lost someone that day. This also meant that my dad's parents had also just lost their eldest son. 2 World War II veterans, already weathered by the horrors of the war. And upon hearing the news, they dropped everything from their comfortable retirement up north to move down south to help bear this burden of rebuilding our family and raising us 2 young and impressionable boys together with my now broken mum. But after several years of jumping between their home after school and my mum's in the evening, most certainly driving everyone completely mad with all of our energy and mischief, they selflessly and collectively decided to downsize by co-purchasing a new home together for us all to live in. Now, moving in with your in-laws like this might sound like a disaster in the making, as they both gave up the autonomy and comfort that they had come to know by having homes of their own in order to try and fill this hole that my dad had left as best they could. But in doing so, they reduced their expenses and living costs and gained something priceless: time. And despite not having much, my mother and grandparents provided us 2 young and impressionable boys with role models and friendships that we so desperately needed within the safety net of their community, which equipped us with patterns and connections that continue to serve us now into our adult lives, making this a decision that I am forever grateful for. This is the power of time in relation to the place that we choose to call home, because it's time that determines the strength of our communities and the quality of our relationships. And it's often our homes that determine our ability to spend our time on what we truly care about. Their time shaped the person that I now am today, and I'm left to wonder just how differently I might have turned out without it. Now, my third and final story is about the power of design. In spite of poor grades and a bad attitude that I had developed in school, which my poor widowed mum and aging grandparents struggled to control, I somehow scraped it into an incredible architecture school by the absolute skin of my teeth, thanks largely to nothing other than an unmerited artistic ability that I had. I knew that I didn't really deserve to be there, and so I became desperate to seize this opportunity to make my family proud, especially after everything that we had been through together. And after completely turning things around at university, I somehow landed my dream job right in the middle of London. But as I gained experience, I began to realize how a lot of young and ambitious architects like myself tends to develop this identity complex that's somewhere between knowledgeable professional and struggling artist, where if you're not working several hours of unpaid overtime each week and giving up the occasional weekend for your projects, you clearly just don't love it enough. And I was slowly realizing that I didn't. Now, this was because I had 2 problems. Firstly, I was realizing that the passion that I once had for my career was slowly dying out, because I began to see myself as a cog in a profit-driven system as I began to devote more and more of my time to somewhat hollow, yet highly profitable and repeatable commercial buildings. And instead of following my creativity and instincts, I was selling out for this idea of career progression and stability. My second problem was that I had also become quite interested in something else. I had recently married the love of my life, Nisha, who had left her comfortable home and family in Vancouver to come and live with me in a sardine tin. It was my very first home, a 300 square foot studio apartment, about the size of 2 parking spaces. And as I worked late and met deadlines, I found myself missing out on so many of our precious evenings together, all while knowing that she was stuck in a foreign country, completely isolated, while I became disillusioned and even a little bit bitter about this dream life that I had been chasing. Now, she never once complained, but I felt guilty. And at that point in my career, there was no better place for us to be than in London. And so, although I couldn't fix our inability to move, I knew that I could at least try to make the design of our apartment a little bit more comfortable, at least until we could afford somewhere larger. And so, I got to work designing, where I began to notice things, like how raising a bed up onto a platform of dressers could provide us with more than enough storage for both of our wardrobes, and how coffee tables are really just dining tables, except lower. So, when equipped with an ironing board style mechanism, they could be raised and even extended using a hidden leaf, which allowed us to comfortably seat up to 6 people. And I realized that I could repeat this dual functionality elsewhere too, by purchasing seating with integrated storage, or by using our Windows roller blind as a projector screen, or by using a blank wall as a space to mount a monitor and fold-out desk. And before I knew it, it felt like our apartment had doubled in size, as we began comfortably hosting dinners, enjoying movie nights, and working from home together, all in an apartment that was about the size of a couple of parking spaces. But it didn't stop there, because somewhere along the line, despite how crazy this may seem, we almost completely eliminated the desire for a larger home. Because a home this size was easier to clean, more efficient to run, but most importantly, cheaper to live in. And this gave me the confidence and empowered me to take a pay cut down to a 4-day work week, which solved my problem of not getting enough time with my wife, whilst also easing some of the dissatisfaction that I was experiencing in my work. And then out of the blue, something clicked. It dawned on me that a lot of people living in small apartments and homes like our own, they often don't have the means to hire an architect like me to find these kinds of solutions for their homes, which can make these kinds of tailored solutions beyond the reach of the people who really need them the most. And so I considered, seeing as I could credit so much of what I had learned at university to the internet, why not upload the design of our apartment to YouTube so other people could copy it too? And almost immediately, my very first video amassed a view count into the hundreds of thousands, which made me realize that perhaps I was onto something. I had stumbled seemingly by luck into my true dream job, which was sharing the insights I had with the people who really needed them the most. But what's interesting is that I would have never have stumbled upon this if it wasn't for the design of our apartment. Because instead of following the status quo, our apartment gave me the time and the mental space to redirect my focus on what it was that I truly wanted, which I realized was time with my family and work with meaning. 2 things I now get to enjoy every single day, not just as a husband and an architect, but also as a father myself now too. This is the power of design in relation to the place that we choose to call home. And it's why I say our homes have the ability to subtly shape who and even what we become. Because as I reflect on my mum's journey from Malaysia to England, the loss of my father, and my childhood and upbringing, I now realize just how instrumental our homes were in harnessing the power of time and opportunity to give me the life that I am now so grateful for today. And since having the privilege of living in various spaces of my own, I now realize that time and opportunity are even things that we can influence and leverage to make the very most out of what it is that we have through the power of design. So whether your dreams are to become a more present partner or parent, or to focus more of your time on a new personal endeavor or business, consider how the design of your home might play a role in aligning your time and opportunities with your priorities. From something as small as creating the space for a new workspace or dining area, to something as big as finding a way to downsize or even completely relocate. These are decisions which ripple their effects throughout our lives and the lives of the people that we love. So who knows what the power of design, the power of time, and the power of opportunity might end up doing for you. Regarding the place that we choose to call home, every single decision that we make is an act of design, which in fact makes us all designers. And as the designers of our homes, we can become the designers of our futures. Thank you.